He was making a run for it, his small feet pounding against the cold metal floor. He could hear them behind him, their footsteps echoing his own. Their gruff voices carried through the ship's intercom, demanding that he stop. He ducked under a low-hanging cable and scrambled up a ladder. The air in front of him filled with sparking electricity, and he flinched at the sight, instinctively reaching out to steady himself. A firm hand clamped over his, surprised by the contact. Startled, he turned to see a grizzled man with kind eyes offering him an encouraging nod. Taking a deep breath, the boy squeezed the man's hand before scurrying past him and up the ladder. The metallic grating of the maintenance hatch above him grew louder as he climbed. With one final heave, he hauled himself up onto the narrow ledge and crawled through the opening. It was pitch black, but he could hear the rush of wind outside and the faint hum of the ship's engines. Hope surged through him. He pressed himself against the wall, adrenaline pumping, heart hammering against his ribs like a trapped bird. The hatch slid shut behind him with a hiss, plunging him into absolute darkness. He didn't dare move, didn't dare breathe. His whole body was on fire, every muscle screaming in protest. He wanted to scream, to cry, but he forced himself to stay still, to be quiet. A heavy thud followed by muffled curses echoed from the other side of the hatch, then the scrape of metal on metal. Was that a drill? Was someone trying to break in? He couldn't move, couldn't do anything. All he could do was wait. But the sounds of pursuit gradually faded away, until all he could hear was the frantic thumping of his own heart. When he was sure he had been forgotten, when the only sound was the wind whistling past the ship, he dared to move. He found purchase on the rough surface and started climbing higher, inching his way toward the faint glow of lights in the distance. The climb was treacherous. Bolts of lightning arced across the night sky, illuminating the twisted metal and broken machinery littering the ship's exterior. Torrents of rain poured down, soaking him to the bone. But he kept climbing, driven by the hope of escape, fueled by fear of the shadowy figures below. He emerged onto a flat surface, gasping for breath. The rain was relentless, the wind screaming in his ears. Looking back, he saw a gaping hole in the ship's hull, the twisted metal frame a dark silhouette against the flashes of lightning. Turning away, he forced himself to keep moving. The ground beneath him vibrated with the ship's low hum, the sound reverberating through his bones. He hugged the wall, seeking shelter from the worst of the storm. From where he was, he could see the sprawling network of pipes and cables that crisscrossed the ship, a metallic jungle leading down to the murky blackness of space. With each step, the humming grew louder, the vibrations stronger. Then the ground beneath him began to shake, the tremors sending shivers down his spine. The rumbling escalated, becoming a deafening roar. In the distance, he saw a massive explosion, a brilliant flash of light followed by billowing clouds of smoke. He ran, stumbling over uneven terrain, adrenaline masking the throbbing pain in his legs. The ship lurched violently, throwing him off balance. Scrambling for purchase on the slick metal, he looked back. The explosion had ripped a massive gash in the ship's side, flames licking hungrily at the escaping smoke. Taking a deep breath, he forced himself to move forward, away from the inferno, away from the danger. The ground beneath him gave way, sending him plummeting into darkness. He landed hard, the impact knocking the breath out of him. Disoriented, he looked around. He was inside a vast cavern, the floor littered with debris, the ceiling lost in shadows. There were others here, a group of people huddled together, their faces etched with fear. They stared back at him, their eyes wide with surprise. One of the men, older with graying hair, stepped forward. "Who are you?" he asked, his voice echoing in the cavernous space. The boy hesitated, unsure what to say. He began, then stopped. What was he doing here? How did he get here? Fragments of memory flickered through his mind. A chase, a dark ship, a hole in the wall, but nothing clear, nothing concrete. Who was he? Where was he? Why was everyone afraid? The man with graying hair reached out a hand, his expression softening. "Are you hurt?" he asked gently. The boy shook his head, his throat too tight to speak. The man nodded, then turned to the others. "We should get out of here," he said, urgency creeping into his voice. They might come looking for him. As they hurried away, their footsteps ringing in the vast emptiness. The boy remained rooted to the spot, his eyes wide with confusion. He stood there alone in the middle of the wrecked ship, surrounded by the ghosts of his past, trying to piece together the shattered fragments of his memory, desperately seeking answers in the deafening silence. As dawn broke, casting an eerie glow over the landscape, he found himself standing at the edge of a vast chasm, the wind whipping strands of damp hair across his face. Below him, jagged rocks jutted out of the ground like broken teeth. The ground trembled beneath his feet, the ship groaning as if in pain. He wasn't alone. Several others stood there with him, their faces drawn and haggard. One of them, a woman with fiery red hair, clutched a small child close, her eyes filled with fear. "We have to go," she whispered, her voice shaking. "We can't stay here." He shared her apprehension, feeling the tremor in the ground beneath his feet. The rumble grew louder, and in the distance he saw the ship shudder violently. Flames erupted from the gaping hole in its side, casting an eerie red glow over the landscape. "It's too late," the man with graying hair said grimly. "There's no escape now." The boy felt a surge of panic. Was there nowhere left to hide, nowhere left to run? What would happen now? He looked down at the rocky ground, unable to meet anyone's gaze. He thought about the shadowy figures from his past, their faces distorted by rage. Would they find him here? Was there anywhere he could go? Anyone he could turn to for help? Just then, the child in the woman's arms stirred, letting out a small cry. She shushed him quickly, but the damage was done. The rumble from the ship intensified, shaking the very foundations of the world around them. The boy knew they wouldn't be safe here any longer. As the ground cracked beneath their feet and the flames from the ship danced ominously in the twilight, they fled, racing away from the doomed vessel, hoping to outrun the catastrophe that awaited them all.